to our kickoff meeting of the Regional Economic Development Committee. We're very excited to have each of you with us this afternoon. I see a lot of familiar faces in the Zoom room, but for those of you who may not know me, my name's Eric Sexton. I'm the Executive Director here at the BRAD, the Barren River Area Development District. We've been your regional planning and development agency for over 52 years. We have a long tradition of leveraging federal, state, and local dollars into programs that make South Central Kentucky a wonderful place to live and work. So today, we are reestablishing this Regional Economic Development Planning Committee. This was previously developed in our organization's bylaws in the early days of BRAD's history. And then up until a few years ago, a fragment of this committee existed in what was known as the Barren River Development Council. Many of you that have been around for a while will remember the BRAD's Development Council. We believe that now is a great time to reorganize this committee for our region. So the vision of this committee is to take the work that we are doing in our communities in the areas of strategic planning and hazard mitigation and resiliency and develop them into a comprehensive plan that will provide guidance for the next generation to thrive. So again, we're extremely excited about the work that we're about to embark on today. And we have for you today, 3 wonderful team members here at BRAD. They're incredible, and they're going to share with you an overview of how this process is designed and how we're going to be able to help you in your respective communities. And we're going to try to do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. I know I've heard much of the chatter as we were entering into this room. This is our 3rd, our 4th, our 5th, our 8th Zoom meeting. And so we definitely appreciate your patience. We want you to know that the future of this committee, post a COVID environment, we'll definitely have that opportunity to get together in person and network and fellowship when it's safe to do so. And so we just appreciate, again, each of you joining us today. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Emily Hathcock. Emily is our Associate Director of Planning and Development here at BRAD.
Thank you, and thanks everybody for tuning in. I will give just a quick note before we dive into our presentation that you have been put on mute. Feel free at any time if you have any questions to unmute yourself. We just have such a large group here today that it was easier to start off with everyone on mute. So just as a FYI. So as Eric mentioned today, we are going to go over this committee and kind of what the vision is for the committee and the process of our regional planning, including a timeline. And then we'll also be talking about the committee's structure and voting members and electing officers for this committee. So the first part of this is updating our regional plans and looking at the process of that. So this whole process starts with our regional kickoff meeting, which is what you're at today. Welcome. From here, we are going to work with each county to create or convene county level strategic steering committee meetings. So if you already have a county level group that meets, that works on your planning in any capacity, we don't want to reinvent the wheel here. We really want to tap into what you've already got. However, if you do not have such a committee, we will work with you to establish one. FEMA has a few guidelines for the mitigation process as to what types of stakeholders they want to see on these committees. But again, if you already have a committee in place, we do not want to reinvent the wheel for any piece of this process. So once those county level steering committees start meeting, they're going to review existing strategic plans in the county or create new ones. So again, for example, I know that Hart County just completed a massive comprehensive plan with KLC. We're not coming in to redo anything that you've already done. We really just want to take and go that step further. So looking at any completed plans that you've got, let's start looking at action steps for them. all the while also folding in how do we consider hazard mitigation in this so that we can also update our regional mitigation plan and our regional comprehensive economic development strategy. So quarterly, this committee that you're on right now will have another call, and they'll review those regional plans. So they'll review the mitigation strategies and plans, they'll review the comprehensive economic development strategy, things like that. And then finally, this regional body will also approve those plans at the end. So a little bit more in detail, strategic planning particularly, we like to say is where the overlap of comprehensive planning, hazard mitigation planning, and resiliency planning occur. So we're really operating in this sweet spot here, this triangle where they all three merge. So our effort really is going to be looking at all three aspects of this. It's going to be a long-term community-based solution. It's going to allow us to plan to protect community assets, and it's going to provide actionable steps for each community to reach the goals that you guys identify. So a little bit deeper into that and looking at how it overlaps with comprehensive planning, KRS requires that each city have a comprehensive plan. These are the two KRS regulations that speak to that. This effort really ties into where it's that very bottom bullet can also include other sections. So our other sections will be things like mitigation planning, things like resiliency planning. How can we really make this an all-inclusive effort? So to speak a little bit more on what that impact looks like with mitigation planning particularly is Diana Crockett. She's our disaster resiliency coordinator, and I will hand it to her now.
Thank you, Emily. So some of you might be familiar with hazard mitigation and some of you might be completely new to this process. Hazard mitigation is important for all communities. And you might be asking yourself why? Well, disasters can cause a loss of life, they can damage buildings and infrastructure in your community, and they can have devastating consequences for your community's economic, social, and environmental well-being. Hazard mitigation will reduce disaster damages, and it is also defined as the sustained action taken to reduce or even eliminate the long-term risk to human life and property from hazards. Examples of mitigation actions include outreach programs that would increase the risk awareness, projects that protect critical facilities, the construction of community safe rooms, the installation of generators and alert sirens, and also the removal of any structures from flood hazard areas. Local mitigation actions and concepts can also be incorporated into any existing land use plans and your building codes. Local governments have the responsibility to protect the health, safety, and welfare of their citizens. So proactive measures, proactive mitigation policies and actions help reduce that risk and create a safer, more disaster resilient community. Mitigation is also an investment in your community's future safety and sustainability. Instead of having repeated damages and continual demands on federal disaster dollars and assistance, resilient communities are able to proactively protect themselves against future hazards. They can build self-sufficiency and become more sustainable in the future. So some of the benefits of hazard mitigation is that it protects public safety and prevents a loss of life and injury. It also reduces harm to existing future development. It prevents damage to your community's unique economic, cultural, and environmental assets. It minimizes the operational downtime, and it also accelerates the recovery of government and businesses after a disaster. Further, it can reduce the costs of disaster response in your community, and it helps you accomplish other community objectives, such as leveraging any capital improvements, infrastructure protection, and open space preservation. Next slide. Okay, so next, what is hazard mitigation planning? Mitigation is the most effective when it is based on a comprehensive long-term plan that is developed before an actual disaster occurs. So the purpose of mitigation planning is to identify any local, policies and actions that can be implemented over the long term to reduce risk and future losses from hazards. These mitigation policies and actions are identified based on an assessment of the hazards, vulnerabilities, and risks, and also the participation of a wide range of stakeholders and the public in the planning process. Hazard mitigation planning is also a federal requirement from the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000, and Section 322 of that act specifically addresses mitigation planning, and it requires all state and local governments to prepare multi-hazard mitigation plans as a precondition for receiving FEMA mitigation project grants. And many of our communities have already received those mitigation grant dollars, so you all know about this. And in order to in the future to receive those funds, your mitigation plans have to be up to date. Some benefits of mitigation planning include that it identifies actions for risk reduction that are agreed upon by the stakeholders and the public in your communities. It also focuses resources on the greatest risks and vulnerabilities in your community. It helps by building partnerships by involving an array of citizens, organizations, and businesses. It also increases the education and awareness of threats and hazards, as well as their risks for your community. And finally, it helps you communicate any priorities to your state and federal officials. And next, Casey is going to discuss resiliency planning.
Hi, my name is Casey Bunch. I am the resiliency planner here at Brad. I'm fairly new to the Brad team. You may have got a couple of emails from me, so I'm very excited to see you all. So what I'll be discussing is, what is community resiliency? A lot of people ask me, what does resiliency planning even mean? So let's focus on the word resiliency and take community out for a minute. So if we think of personal resiliency, it's being able to take something that's negatively happened in our life and being able to grow from that experience. So putting that in a community perspective, it's the community's ability to absorb and bounce back from any type of shock and be able to build back stronger. So the visual here I like to use is, think of a community. If this ball here is a community, and if some type of shock like losing a large employer, or maybe a terroristic act, or a global pandemic, right? It's that community's ability to absorb that shock and be able to grow back, compared to a community that doesn't have any type of resiliency in their plannings, and they have this shock and it's in this constant state of long-term dysfunction, right? So we do not want to be this community that's not able to bounce back from any type of shock. We want to be the community that has that type of resiliency planning in their and that ability to bounce back from shock. So I love that. You don't want your community to be the Play-Doh, right? We want it to be the community that has that ability to move forward. So why do we need resiliency in our local plans? First of all, they're localized plans and solutions. A lot of times in community development, you'll have a lot of outside perspective to come in and say, oh, we noticed these things in your community that needs to be changed. Please just go change it, and then they leave, right? Brad's taken a different approach where we help our communities determine. Thank you, Dr. J. I appreciate that. We take the opportunity to ask our community what they see as success in those communities. How can we continue to grow those successes and develop that community? And I love the phrase build back stronger. We want to make sure our communities, after any type of shock, is to be able to build back after that shock. And we also want to help determine the gaps and barriers of those community assets. Though what I see as a community asset is, what are those things that tourists come, what do you tell them about your community? What are you proud of your community? Those are the things that you want to protect, right? So being able to add resiliency in those plans are going to help protect those community assets. Emily, I think this is back to you.
It is, thank you. So just as a reminder, our process for regional hazard mitigation planning, for our comprehensive economic development strategy, and our county level strategic planning efforts really does occur in this central part where all of these efforts merge. So what does that really look like? What do we mean when we say we're going to do county level things? Really what we're going to do is we're going to work with each county to create or expand a local plan and set goals for the next 5 years. So again, if you have already completed a comprehensive planning effort, we are not reinventing the wheel. We are not wanting you to redo that. We want to come in and go, what's the next step? You've got your comprehensive plan, it's ready. How do we put it in action? Where are our first steps in meeting that first goal that the community has already identified? However, if you do not have a comprehensive plan or a similar large-scale plan, we want to come in and help you create one that really will be driven locally by your committee. So it will include implementation steps. And at the end of this effort, we will end up with at least 10 county level strategic plans. We are starting this at the county level. However, we do anticipate that there will be some cities who want to dive in deeper on a city level, and we are not ruling that out. So that is an option if a city is interested, but we are starting with our counties. From a mitigation perspective, FEMA does want us to include our cities with our counties, so we are also trying to make sure that we cover all of our bases for federal requirements. So in addition to the 10 strategic plans, we'll also end up with 3 regional plans. That's our Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan, a Regional Resiliency Plan, and our Regional Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. And then finally, through all of this effort, we're going to end up with an interactive implementation toolkit. This will be a digitally based toolkit that lives on our website that will help each community in implementing their strategic plans. So it will give some guidance and some options for how you do certain projects. So think about things like, we're looking to establish a new park. Maybe the toolkit has something like, here are grant sources for that. Here are private funders for that. Here are examples of types of playground equipment, that kind of thing. So the toolkit really is in conception right now, and it will be driven based upon what we hear from all of our county level plans. So the next part of that is looking at the process for those county level meetings. So this is the community development wheel. Depending upon where your county currently has capacity is where you'll start. So you could come in at any point in this cycle. So for example, if you have a comprehensive plan in place already that you've just recently updated, you're probably going to start about step 4 or step 5. If you don't have any plans at all, you're probably going to start about step 1 or 2. We're really going to work with each county to determine the best place for where you come in on this cycle, and then work with those county level groups to make those plans. So what's the next step for this regional committee? First, in March, we're going to meet again. In March, we're going to ask each county to designate 2 voting members. And then we're also going to ask for officers. This will play a key part when we go to actually make the approvals of the regional plans, so the Regional Mitigation Plan and our CEDS. We're also going to ask each county to start thinking about county level steering committees and who they would like to serve on those committees. We'll be reaching out to you over the next few weeks to start getting a listing of who you would like on your county level team. And we are hoping to start convening those county level meetings in January. We do anticipate that for the first few months, it's going to be a Zoom meeting. We're hoping to keep it within an hour for those county level meetings, with some additional interactive collaboration spaces offline. Think Google Classroom type stuff where people could check in as they have time but aren't required at any single point of time. As soon as we are able to meet safely and in person, we fully anticipate moving all these meetings to in-person, just as soon as it is safe to do so. So bear with us for the next few months as we do this via Zoom, but we promise we won't do it all. And then finally, we're going to ask for your help in identifying any county level existing plans. So if you have had a comprehensive plan, if you've had other strategic plans in your areas, again, we don't want to reinvent the wheel or make you go through a planning process that you've just been through. We want to really build upon what you've already done. So, like I said, we're going to be asking for some things between now and March. Particularly by March, we're going to ask each county to identify those 2 voting members, and then we'll be asking for electing or for officers to serve on the committee, which will primarily be a chair and a vice chair. And then we'll get with you individually on a county level to begin forming county level teams. So that is the broad overview. This is our contact information. We would now love it if you have any questions to please let us know. Quick reminder, most of you are on mute. So if you have questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. We're happy to answer anything.
Hey, Emily, I do have a question. I'll kick it off. This presentation and PowerPoint have been recorded. Is there a way that for those who maybe came in halfway through or would like to review it again, that this can be shared with this group?
Absolutely. So we are recording this and we will either get it posted on our website or share it out, a link to the recording after the meeting. Does anyone have any other questions?
I have one.
Sure thing.
When was the last time that this type of committee met or discussed anything? It seems like to me when I come on board in 2010, and maybe in 11 or 12, we met with Brad then, kind of updated where we were. Is that pretty much been about the last time that we really, I guess what I'm gonna call, got serious about this?
I'm going to let Eric answer that.
Sorry, I have to unmute myself. So technically, yes. Our comprehensive plan that we rewrite every 5 years, that was probably the last time that there was any significant work done in this process. And the manner and method that we used was probably different because that would have been under a prior administration. So one of the things that we've been working towards since I've been here and having Emily on board is how can we make this process efficient and meaningful to all the stakeholders that are involved. And with the creation of our disaster resiliency and our resiliency planner positions, it's just a great time to just kind of marry those together because they all operate in those circular wheelhouses. And back to Casey's example, it was a very good example with the Play-Doh and the bouncy ball. We want our communities in our region to be able to bounce back and be resilient. So, Mayor, it has been some time since we've done this process. This is something due to our federal designation as an EDD we're required to do. And so we want to make it meaningful and not just a checkbox of something that we're doing to say, hey, this is complete, let's move on. We actually want your input. We want your involvement. And so hopefully that will be a little bit different approach maybe than we had in the past.
Does this, of course, the Brad did our comprehensive plan a year ago, I think, and we pay the Bowling Green Area Chamber to do our economic development. Does this all kind of sit in what you're talking about here?
A bit, yes. So specifically for Morgantown with your updated comprehensive plan, what we would look at then is going, okay, the goals and objectives that you've listed in that comprehensive plan, what are the action steps to actually seeing those come to fruition? What do we need to do to get to each goal? What bite-sized thing can we do next, right? And then we're going to add a layer to that of, okay, where do we need extra generators because we have a critical facility that's exposed? Where do we have property that habitually floods that we need to make note of for our hazard mitigation side of it? So it really will build upon those efforts. Now, with what you do with the economic development, it really depends upon what that looks like for you. So this effort isn't a direct outreach of economic development. Like, we're not going out and recruiting anybody to come in. What we're doing is really helping you as a community to identify your own goals and then giving you some processes for how you meet those goals. Does that make sense?
Okay, so for us, for us, it's really on the mitigation side more than anything else.
Yes.
Mayor Phelps, that's a great question that you brought about. Emily did a good job of answering that. This is why we want to individualize at the local level, because it is going to look different in each county, in each community that we work in. So that's going to be important going forward. Now, you mentioned chambers of commerce, and that I think is going to be something at the local level that will be good for you to have their involvement. All of our chambers operate differently. So it would probably be good to have those types of folks at the table as you're thinking about your local steering committees. And it will help feed into this regional committee that we have here today. I hope that helps a little bit. We're really excited about this process. I don't come from a planning background. Those of you that have been on my executive board or that are on the board know that, but I've grown to just love the concept of area development districts and what we can do to help leverage federal, state, and local dollars and improve our communities. So at some point in this process, Brad operates health and human service programs as well, and that's a vital part of our community. So that might be an area that comes up in one of our communities that needs some specific plans or goals. So again, we're really wanting your brains, your thinking caps, and your participation as we move forward.
But you're starting this out more at the county level than you are with us at the city. Am I correct with that? So this is more, in my case, this is more Tim's dealings than it is mine.
I'd like for it to be both of yours because cities live in counties, right? And
right.
And this actually, Mayor, I understand what you're saying, but this is a wonderful opportunity to have these joint partnerships and really work together. And so that's what we're kind of excited about, bringing you together. So absolutely, it might be a little bit county driven, but you live in the county and you care about your city and the interests of your citizens. So it definitely pays you to work together.
This is Jana Ray Conway, the Barron River District Health Department. I'm going to ask a question more on behalf of my local folks because they've all been asking me this question. When you get ready to go down to the county level, I know that with the hazard mitigation plan in the past, we have sent some of our local folks, but definitely have one of my team would have attended that as well. What would be the benefits of having someone from your local health department participating in those county meetings?
Me or you, Emily?
Well, either one. Or I was going to ask if Diana had tie in as well with the FEMA aspect on it.
Diana, you want to go?
Sure. I think it would be very beneficial to have a representative from each of the counties there, from the health departments, just to sort of help everybody navigate more, and they might have more insight on some of the pandemic issues and some of, the influenza type hazards that also come up and things like that, that we can make sure that we don't miss anything out and we can cover all of our aspects.
And I'll just add to that, there's those environmental things, obviously, at the local level that you all know about. some areas have bats, right? Some of them are special bats, right, Jenna Ray? And so we think we know all about our region, but we might not. So having that local person there from the health department to kind of represent, I think will be beneficial. And we appreciate the partnership, Jenna Ray. What other questions, thoughts, or comments does this group have? I'm looking through the screen right now. It's a good looking group. I see that Judge Hale's got some either cows or horses back there. I have been waiting for them to get out of the fence, but I haven't seen them yet, Judge.
No, they're pretty well confined.
Emily, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, that really is the end of our presentation for today. We will be reaching out to each county to begin asking you about who you would like to serve on your county level team, and then also for your voting member recommendation before our next meeting. So you will either be hearing from myself, Casey, or Diana shortly within the next few weeks. So that we hope to get those county level teams rolling in January. If you have any questions between now and then, please feel free to email or call us. We're happy to answer or clarify anything else. And then, like I said earlier, we are recording this presentation and we will be making it available after our meeting today. So thank you all so much for joining us. It was a great turnout. We hope that you are equally as excited as we are to roll out this effort. And we look forward to working with each of you. So have a very good afternoon.
Thank you all.